Good, good morning, everyone. We're going to begin, and we've got your first Dean's panel. It lasts 40 minutes. My name is Mike Stout. I'm one of the workshop coordinators for the conference. We're going to begin by letting each of our deans and directors introduce herself and tell you a little bit about their institution. So, Ms. Cunningham, would you like to go first?
Good morning, everyone. I know you're walking around because I'll first say we have a very hard act to follow. We don't have music on our panel, I'm afraid. So if you are scooting out to do whatever you need to do, we appreciate your attention for those that are able to stay. My name is Tara Cunningham. I'm the Executive Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the University of Arizona College of Medicine in Phoenix. We'll say UA Phoenix Med from now on. Our college campus is located in the middle of downtown Phoenix. So if you look at our student population, we have 80 students that come into each of our entering classes, from which 40 or 50% can come from out of the state. Otherwise, we are a state institution valuing the students in our state. Academically, we're a system-based program. One thing that perhaps sets us a little apart from peer institutions is that we do require our students to create an originally designed research project, a scholarly project, that they will then work on independently with a mentor throughout their 4 years, graduating with a published research project that will carry them into their residency programs. And then just quickly, the setting of our city provide our students the opportunity to work within 10 different teaching institutions, a vast population of underserved, underinsured populations, indigenous populations in the state of Arizona really make our students very well prepared for what they will experience in their practices. So again, University of Arizona College of Medicine, Phoenix.
Good morning. I'm Trina Galogan, and I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions at the Georgia campus, PCOM. PCOM is in Philadelphia and is over 100 years old. Started out as an osteopathic medical school and then added additional master degree programs. In 2005, we opened the Georgia campus, beginning as an osteopathic medical school, and 3 years ago, we opened the School of Pharmacy. In addition, we have 2 master's seeking degrees in organizational development leadership, as well as biomedical sciences. Our osteopathic medical program has 135 seats at the Georgia campus. About half of our applicants come from Georgia, and then the rest are from outside of the Georgia region. And we have a very diverse group of individuals. We are focused on the Southeast region. However, we do take a percentage of outside of the region. Thank you.
I'm Kathy Hebner. I'm the Director of Admissions at the University of Iowa Carver College of Medicine, which is the first medical school in the country to admit women and men on an equal basis in the 1800s. So it's, sometimes I think Iowa gets sort of ignored on the coasts, but it's a really fantastic place to get an education. Our mission includes education, research, and service, and all of these are equal in our educational process. We have a lot of service activities for our students to participate in, and we have something unusual called distinction tracks. And we have tracks that our students can do in teaching, research, service, global health, and humanities. So these are all tracks where we have opportunities available for our students to participate in these when they graduate with distinction. That is something that goes into their dean's letter when they apply to residency programs, and they really are distinct applicants for those residency programs. We have a class of 152 students. 10 of those are in medical scientist training program, or the MD PhD, and 100 are Iowans, and 42 are non-residents, and we keep residents and non-residents in separate pools. And we appreciate the residents, the non-residents, for their diversity in geography, socioeconomic status, a variety of other kinds of aspects that we think are important for our students to have and to share those diverse ideas and cultures with our University of Iowa medical students. So this is something that we keep residents and non-residents in separate pools throughout the process in order to get that diversity that we're looking for in the kinds of populations that we will be working with in the future. I think that's it for now.
Good morning. My name is Laura Lee Hurley. I am the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Alumni Services at the University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine. It's a lot to say. Good morning. We are located on the coast of Maine. We have a coastal campus. We have 4,000 feet of water frontage. We were founded in 1978, so we're welcoming back our 30th reunion members this year. We're excited about that. Our mission, I think, says it all about us. We transform students into healthcare leaders who advance patient-centered, high-quality osteopathic primary care, research, and community health for the people of Maine, New England, and of course the nation. We are private college under the University of New England heading, which has 5 colleges. And we do admit students from both inside and outside of the USA. About 75% of our class each year comes from New England states, and the remainder come from both outside of that area and also outside of the United States. We were recognized in the last 3 years, but most recently this year by U.S. News and World Report for producing 5th in the nation for producing primary care docs. So it is one of our specialties. We also were recognized for geriatric medicine and also for rural medicine, which all of our students do a rotation during their 3rd year. They come back to Maine for that. Lots of rural areas in Maine. We admit typically a class of 124 students each year, but we have been approved to go up next year to 175 students, so we're excited about that aspect. And our average age student is about 25 years old. So we do see students coming right from undergrad and also those who have had some time to live some life before they come back, some in their 50s. And our campus is beautiful. I will be here at the Recruit Fair after. Also very happy. Thank you for having me. Thanks for listening.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jean Shelton. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment at Rosalind Franklin University in North Chicago, Illinois. We are located about 40 minutes north of the city, which we think is a great benefit for our students. Our students are able to see a wide variety of patient populations. We're actually pretty close to rural Wisconsin, so our students get to do rotations in rural Wisconsin, in the suburbs where we're located, and also downtown and busy Chicago hospitals. So our students get to see not only a variety of patient populations, but a variety of settings. Our university had actually celebrated our 100-year anniversary this summer, so we had a lot of activities, including birthday cake. So it was a fun time this summer, and we definitely continue that throughout this year. Our university is very focused on interprofessional education. We have 16 graduate-level healthcare programs on our campus. Everybody is graduate, everybody's going into healthcare, so it's a really nice camaraderie on campus. Because we do have such a variety of students on campus, we think it's important to teach you together. Everybody knows that healthcare is headed towards that teamwork model. So we think it's important to get you together early on, let you see what the other professions do, what the strengths are, but also to be able to network and spend time with students outside of your desired profession. So we have, of course, the med school, but also a podiatric medical program, PA, PT, kind of the whole gamut, I guess, of different healthcare programs. Our class size is 191. And as a private institution, we don't hold seats for any students, no set number for Illinois versus outside of Illinois. And California is actually one of our bigger feeder states, so we do see a lot of students from California on campus. Thanks.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Monica Vella from the University of Chicago Pritzker School of Medicine. We sit on the south side of Chicago. We're a small medical school. We take 88 students per year. We are very focused on scholarship and discovery, as well as caring for the underserved. So there are a number of hospitals and medical schools in Chicago. We believe this is our focus. We sit in one of the wealthiest communities in Chicago. It's called Hyde Park. It's where President Obama came from. We are surrounded by 4 of the 5 poorest communities in Chicago, and therefore we feel we definitely have a responsibility to provide health care to all of society. Our school has a very long-standing tradition of research. When we take a look at NIH dollars, we rank 3rd or 4th in the country per faculty member. Our students participate in research from first year on through. It is very possible to obtain a dual degree at our school because we sit on campus with the entire rest of the undergrad and graduate schools. So many of our students obtain their MD, MBA, MD, MPP, MD, JD. All depends on what you're interested in. And all of the schools also participate in delivering teaching to our medical students. So I myself run a health disparities course, and I can go across campus and bring in professors from the SSA school, from economics, from lawyers who are interested in patient advocacy, historians, and sociologists. It's a lot of fun to run. What else can I tell you? We, at a time when the AMSA is calling for medical schools to expand the number of students they take, we actually reduced our number. And the reason for that is we wanted to make sure that every single student had as many opportunities to make personal mentorship relationships with faculty, and that we were able to provide the type of opportunities that would lead to students becoming leaders and innovators in medicine. I think that's what I have to say.
We will begin our questioning with Ms. Cunningham, and if any of our guests would like to add to her answer, feel free to do so. We were asked, if I took some of the required courses like chemistry in a foreign accredited university and study in the USA now, would you recommend that I retake these courses in a US university?
That's a great question, and I know for many of you that is an applicable situation or scenario. And so where we have resided, at least within our institution, is that yes, and it's a hard message to send to you, but unfortunately we do expect that our students have been exposed to those foundational courses, required coursework for admission within the United States or within our Canadian institutions. And the reason for this is because we understand our accreditation standards in the country more so than any other country. So it is a safeguard for not only our institution, but to understand your knowledge, but essentially it's a safeguard for the patients that you ultimately will treat. We have to validate, we have to ensure that the education you've obtained is coming from the same standards as those students trained in the United States. So it's for that reason that we require all required courses and a baccalaureate degree actually for our university to be completed in the United States or within our Canadian partners.
Okay, Ms. Gologan, does an applicant's school of graduation matter while reviewing the applications for medical school? I think that what the question is asking, if they went to, say, Yale or Harvard versus a state college, if you're looking at the extremes.
Actually, we're just looking at regionally accredited colleges. We do prefer that it is at a university or four-year college setting instead of a community college. However, there are some community colleges that we, in our local area, that we are aware of that's pretty stringent. So for our campus in particular, we do make that a consideration.
Thank you. And Ms. Hebner, what is the most important advice one can receive regarding medical school interviews?
I think in our interview process, which is a little bit different than some other schools, the most important thing to do is be yourself. Think about the experiences that you've had over time, because you will have volunteer experiences, maybe shadowing experiences or research. And don't just consider them something to check off of a list that you did, but really think about how those experiences have motivated you to go into medicine or continue to motivate you toward a career in medicine. And when you're talking with the interviewers, make sure to be enthusiastic about it, to really show that you're glad to be at the school, you're glad to be talking about your skills and your experiences and how those will be a good fit for that particular medical school.
Thank you. Ms. Hurley, we've got a question from our Twitter feed asking, what are the differences in clinical experience required or recommended for a student going or applying to an allopathic school versus an osteopathic school?
The clinical experiences, was that the question?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm not familiar with allopathic medical education. I'm not an expert in that, but I can talk about osteopathic education, and I can talk specifically to Unicom. So our students are with us for the first 2 years of their education. They're doing their science courses. Year 3, they're placed in a clinical campus, and for us, it's in the Northeast. They're not just in New England, they're also in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey. They do have some say in where they go during that year, but they're in that one location for the entire year doing their rotations. Year 4, they can go anywhere that they want. It's really their year to do what we call showcasing for those residency sites that they'll be wanting to apply to the next year. So it's their opportunity to get out there, get to those residency sites, show their work, show their skill, show their passion, and hopefully obtain those sites in the following year when they go into the residency matches. They can go inside and outside the United States. I think that makes us a little different, a little flexible, but I am unsure of how the allopathic world works, so we might want to ask some of our colleagues from that side of the equation. But for osteopathic medicine in general, I know that students going out into residency matches can either apply to allopathic or osteopathic if they're coming from an osteopathic school, so that does give them an additional choice. And about 60% of our graduates actually go into allopathic residency sites, and about 40% go into osteopathic. So that gives you a little bit of that breakdown.
Ms. Cunningham, would you like to add to that?
Yeah, I think maybe from a different perspective, as you are preparing for medical school, some clinical experiences, regardless of which path you take, allopathic or osteopathic, perhaps one thing that you can keep in mind is what medical schools are expecting you to be is a bit unfair. And I'll be very honest, we want you to be physicians prior to you becoming physicians. We expect that you have some clinical experience. So I'm always reminding our faculty and our admissions committee to remember that you are limited in your ability to gain that direct patient experience. So the best that you can do, regardless of the path you're heading, is to identify a place, a mentor that will give you the best experience. And if you stay with that place for 2 years, that is much, I think, more valuable to our admission process than feeling compelled to experience 5 different places for shorter stints of time. So I heard the question maybe in a little different way. My encouragement to you is find a place that you're most passionate, stay at that place, demonstrate some stick-with-itness, as we call it, and then work very closely with that individual to advocate on your behalf come time to write you a letter of recommendation, really attesting to your ability to communicate with patients, work within their team, your dedication to their service or whatever their experience may be. So don't feel compelled to have to experience 5 different places just for the sake of variety. Rather, keep with an institution or with an experience for depth of experience, and I think you'll gain a lot more from that than having gone to multiple experiences.
Thank you. Ms. Shelton, the next question is a 2-part question. Do you look to see if an applicant has research experience, and if they do not have any, does it detract from the potential of admission?
Great question. We look for research experience. We like to see it. However, it's not a make it or break it for our institution. We like to see that, but we also look to see if you've had clinical experiences. Maybe you focused your time there. Maybe you focused your time in extracurricular activities. When we look at research, we look at more than just did you work in a lab. Maybe you took a lot of research-heavy coursework. And you got that research experience there. Rosalind Franklin University does have the MD PhD option for our students, and we do have a decent number of students doing that every year, but I think we really focus on the blend of trying to educate both researchers and clinicians. So at our institution, it's something we look at, but it's only a piece of the application.
Great, thank you. Ms. Vela, what are some of the changes the medical field can expect over time due to the new healthcare policies of the Affordable Health Care Act?
I think the Affordable Health Care Act is going to require that we churn out a whole lot more of primary care doctors. There's going to be a significant shortage of primary care doctors over the next 10 years. There's a shortage now. So I think that medical students are going to feel a pull towards that field. And that includes pediatrics, internal medicine, family medicine, as well as OB-GYN. I think medical schools are going to have to focus a little bit more on those preventative health care measures and making sure that students have an opportunity to investigate and pursue those fields a little bit further. I think that's going to be one of the major changes in medical education. The other is going to be a recognition that our society is becoming much more diverse. A huge percent of our population is an immigrant population. Some of the minority populations that we consider minority now will be actually called majority minority populations. And I think if the medical schools that you are interviewing at now don't have it now, they're going to need to bring in some cultural competency training as well as healthcare disparities training into the field.
Thank you, Dr. Vela. Ms. Gologan, what do you look for in an applicant?
Well, as osteopathic medical school, you'll hear the difference is a holistic view. And so we take that in perspective with the applicant as well. So it's not just about the research, it's not just about your MCAT, it's not just about your GPA. We're looking at everything. Have you had leadership roles? Have you had that humanistic interaction with others? And so we're looking for that physician that everybody will want to come back to. As mentioned, there is going to be a greater need for primary care physicians, and so that's what we're looking for to fill that need.
Great, thank you. Ms. Hebner, we have another question from our Twitter feed. And the question is, how do medical schools view the overall GPA versus the science GPA?
Okay. I think medical schools are really quite different from each other depending on what their mission and goals are. At the Carver College of Medicine, a couple of the things that we look at in the GPA are not just a specific GPA for a total or a science GPA that's a specific level, but if there's a rising trend in that GPA, maybe somebody started off a little rough, got on their feet and did a great job in those last few years, then we're actually going to look at that. Between the total GPA and the science GPA, we hope that the science GPA is not significantly lower than the overall GPA. That can be an indication that perhaps you have struggled in some of the basic sciences, and that's going to make medical school more difficult. So when we look at the different GPAs by year, and in science, non-science, and overall, I think we're looking for consistency in that, and that your MCAT scores come out looking pretty consistent as well with that GPA. So we don't have an issue with community colleges at the University of Iowa. We understand that that's where some people start. There's a lot more of that happening as time goes on, and if that's where you start, that's great. We do expect you to go to a four-year school, and from there we're going to get a better idea of what you are capable of doing in a full-time course load.
Thank you. Ms. Hurley, what are some of the challenges facing medical field today, and how does your institution help prepare students to address these challenges?
Well, my colleague over here talked about some of the challenges in healthcare, and primary care shortage is one of them. I think for any medical student going into the medical field, cost of tuition is a big issue going on. And one of the things that we've done to address that is increase our class size in the hopes that we can keep our tuition a little more stable. Healthcare changes every day. It's a dynamic that is continually changing and will continue to do so. We prepare our students by using a case-based curriculum, whereby the students are in lecture halls. You're not going to get away from lectures, but you will be in the lecture hall, and you'll take that information into a small group setting, and you'll apply it directly to a case, so that you're immediately applying your knowledge to a patient scenario and a case scenario. And you'll go back and report later and learn from each other. A few things happen during that process. One of them is that you're in this group for a year. So you learn to work out some group dynamics and work in a team, which is what healthcare is. You're going to be working in a team. One of the other things that we're doing at Unicom is we do interdisciplinary experiences for our students. We do have several colleges, so we have a PT program, a PA program, a brand new dental program, pharmacy program, nurse anesthesiologist. So we have many healthcare professions represented, and they do get together a few times during their semesters, and they work on case-based scenarios again, so that they're learning from each other, to hopefully prepare them to go out into the field and be better doctors, be able to better appreciate their colleagues and learn from each other. So those are some of the things that we're doing.
Thank you. Ms. Shelton, we're going to start with you. We've got another internet question, and we would like to get some feedback from a little bit from everyone, if you have a varying answer to this question. What do you think of the new MCAT in 2015, and how would you compare that to the MCAT now?
Yeah, great question. We've been actually talking to a lot of advisors about the new MCAT and making sure advisors know what the changes are and how they can help you all prepare best for the new MCAT. I think the new MCAT is definitely going to help our students. Like I said earlier, our institution is really focused on interprofessional education. I think the new MCAT with some of the humanities, some of those things are really going to help our students to work well as part of a team, to understand a little bit more about the different types of folks that they'll be working with. So we're excited about what it's going to bring for our students, and think it'll definitely build a little bit of rapport on campus, and help to emphasize a little bit more of those humanistic aspects of medicine and becoming a great clinician, as well as, of course, research scientists as well. So we're excited about what the new MCAT will bring over the next couple years.
I think the new MCAT is very reflective of a movement in medicine, and a recognition that health in and of itself is so much more than just the science that makes up our bodies. It has so much more to do with education and policy and history, and really what this whole country has been through. And when we look at the health of our country as a whole, we can see that so many more things impact every patient's health than just the time period that they spend in the doctor's office. Going along with our society becoming more diverse, I think every medical school is striving for a very diverse group of students. And when we talk about diversity at the University of Chicago, we're talking, yes, about race and ethnicity and gender, but also road travel to medicine and who you've been. Have you been a patient? Have you been the family member of a patient? Have you been a provider already? What's your relationship been with the healthcare system? So we have twice the number of underrepresented minorities at our school as the national average. 25% of our students come from non-basic science backgrounds. There are 20 different languages spoken in each of the classes. 25% of our students come from rural areas. And we think that's really important, because a large part of what you're going to learn in medical school is not going to come just from the person standing at the podium, but rather your learning is going to have a lot to do with who's sitting to your left and to your right. And so I think the MCAT is really trying to draw on the fact that we've come to recognize that health is about so many different things and not just the basic sciences.
Thank you. We have time for one more question. Ms. Cunningham, this is for you. If an applicant has a history or had a history of disciplinary action as an undergrad, which does not show on their record. Does this incident need to be reported?
You know, you guys, you're in a vulnerable, there's a bit of vulnerability, if you will, to institutional actions or things that may have occurred in your past. And I think it demonstrates character, it demonstrates maturity, it demonstrates the ability to self-reflect, be self-aware, and then act upon what you've discovered to be your flat side or your deficiency or a weakness. So do report it, because when you own something that has happened in your past, whether it be positive or a negative and how it influenced, it builds your character. It adds callus to your skin. And that callus really does provide to a medical school an understanding of your ability to cope and manage with stress. I would assume an institutional action causes some stress to you. It also demonstrates, again, your ability to be self-aware of something that has been a kind of a disadvantage or an area of weakness in your background. And it's one thing to own it and then act upon it to remediate and then keep yourself free and clear from those things in the future. Hopefully it's nothing that will prevent you from fulfilling your dream and finding a place that will be willing to accept you into their community, whatever it might be. But oftentimes the students don't report, and then it is known, because we are a tight community of just 140 some medical schools. Your advisors work in concert with our admissions offices. So when you believe it's not reported, just be aware that in our day of collaboration, technology, it's likely to be discovered. So it's discoverable. And if anything is discoverable, you want to be the person to make it discovered, right? You don't want it to be found from the other side, because then you've lost all the ability to explain yourself and to really own and demonstrate, again, your maturity and your growth from that particular incident. So anything you do electronically, everything is discoverable. So be very mindful of your image, the perception of you as an applicant coming into medical school. And this is a tangential to this question. Safeguard yourself from giving the appearance that you are less than what you really are through social media. Safeguard yourself. Block yourself. Private your settings or adjust your settings to private. If you have that other life, it's best we not know about it in the medical school admissions process, okay? So don't be dishonest, own it, and be self-reflective, but do safeguard yourself. You guys are living in a very digital age, and again, things are discoverable. So be on the front end of the story, not on the back end.
That was a very thorough answer, and since it is a very important question, if anyone has anything to add to that, feel free.
Yeah, I think another thing a lot of us do is criminal background checks on all of our students before you matriculate into the program. So if there is something that happened, you know, early on in your career that you think, man, I'm not sure if this still shows in my record, list it. It's always best to be ahead of the curve. Like we were saying, you know, we have had things pop up at times that, you know, maybe you thought it was expunged, maybe you didn't think it would show up. And for us, it's not the fact that the infraction is there, it's the fact that you didn't tell us about it. So, you know, if there is a alcohol infraction freshman year, we've seen it, we know, it happens. So as long as you're the one telling us about it and it isn't popping up, you know, a month before orientation on your criminal background check as a big old surprise to us, it's typically going to be just fine. We want to make sure that we run that background check for a reason. We want to make sure that our students are able to practice medicine so that when you graduate, you're able to get licensed and become a physician. We think it's a huge disservice to you all to, if you had something nasty on your record and you weren't able to be licensed, and then you would be at the end of the day 4 years down the road and not able to pay off those loans, and we think that's a huge disservice to you. So we really do the background check to be sure of that, but like I said, make sure if you have any doubt, always list it.
Okay, I want to thank each of you for coming up here today, and please give our panel a round of applause.